With the controversy surrounding the arrival of the Chinese high-tech observation vessel continuing to grow, President Ranil Wickremesinghe met with the Chinese ambassador to Sri Lanka, Kee Zeng-hong. The meeting was held at the request of the Chinese ambassador. In the meantime, the Foreign Ministry confirmed to Newsfirst that China has been requested to defer the arrival of the vessel to the Hambantota port. What are the latest developments regarding the vessel? On the 12th of July, the Foreign Ministry granted clearance for the vessel to dock at the Hambantota port between the 11th and 17th of August, subject to certain conditions. According to the letter sent by the Foreign Ministry to China, granting clearance for the ship to enter, China had forwarded a request seeking clearance on the 28th of June. The ship was granted permission to enter the exclusive economic zone of Sri Lanka, subject to the government action plan on COVID-19 and under the conditions that the AIS to identify the ship is kept switched on and that no scientific research or survey will be conducted in Sri Lankan waters. Now, the arrival of this Chinese ship became controversial when India voiced its strong objection against the ship's arrival, calling it a Chinese spy ship and citing that it poses a serious threat to India's national security. According to Indian media, the Yuan Wang 5 has an aerial reach of more than 750 kilometers and can snoop on highly sensitive strategic installations on land as well as Indian submarines. In a letter to the Chinese embassy on the 5th of August, the Foreign Ministry requested China to defer the arrival of the Yuan Wang 5 to the Hambantota port. However, as of 2 this afternoon, the Chinese ship continues its course towards the Sea of Sri Lanka. The ship, which was sailing at a slower pace last night, was sailing at a speed of 12 nautical miles per hour towards the Hambantota port today. The ship is currently 1,180 nautical miles away from the Hambantota port. What does the ship's arrival mean to Sri Lanka? According to available information, the arrival of this high-tech observation vessel to Sri Lankan waters was confirmed a month ago, with India voicing their strong objection against the ship docking at the Hambantota port. Sri Lanka has now been forced to take steps to stop this ship from docking at the port. If far-sighted, sound decisions were taken on these matters from the start, couldn't we have avoided such a situation? China and India are the two most populous nations on the earth. They are also two of the most powerful nations in the world today. They represent polar opposite geopolitical blocs. Dealing with China and India isn't as simple as dealing with two friends. We cannot accept the request of one and then go back on our word because it upsets the other. We must handle each with extreme care, far-sightedness, and experienced diplomacy. Sri Lanka's economy has been in decline exactly due to such short-sighted and unsound decisions. We have already lost control of many strategic national assets as our leaders prioritize their personal gain and political aspirations over the best interests of the country. The Hambantota port, which is also part of this controversial situation, is a classic example. Instead of our strategic geopolitical location being a significant asset to Sri Lanka, the actions of our leaders has resulted in it being a significant threat on our very existence. A good example would be the distress and destruction Ukraine is currently facing. Ukraine, a nation that shares a border with Russia, could have followed a non-aligned policy and kept both NATO and Russia at bay if its leaders had handled matters keeping Ukraine's interests at heart. Instead, today, the country is being torn apart by a terrible war. Ultimately, NATO nations will be fine, Russia will be fine, but the people of Ukraine will suffer. Another looming example is Taiwan. Today we see China flexing its muscles by conducting military drills in response to the US speaker's visit. Ultimately, if sanity doesn't prevail, it's not China or the US that will pay a price, but the Taiwanese people. This is why it is important to remember that this is not just a matter of a Chinese ship. This is a representation of a complex geopolitical quagmire that Sri Lanka must find a way out of in order to avoid becoming embroiled in something that's much bigger than our little island can handle. Our political leaders of all sides would do well to take this matter extremely seriously and prioritize the handling of the Yuan Wen 5, protecting Sri Lanka's interests while also respecting the interests of India and China. It is exactly for this reason that Newsfirst has for many years expressed the importance of the Sea of Sri Lanka. What might have sounded like a joke to some then is certainly no joke today. The Sea of Sri Lanka is 500,000 plus square kilometers of ocean that is considered to be our exclusive economic zone. This is an unparalleled resource that we must share with the world, but protect our interests at all times. Being more than 8 times the size of our landmass, it makes Sri Lanka not a pearl in the Indian Ocean, but a significant geopolitical regional power capable of asserting herself as a non-aligned nation. This will not only protect our interests, but also those of our neighbors and friends.
Enjoy 1% merchant commission when you accept Lanka Pay cards. Contact these banks today.